and across pro sports. A very privileged class of individuals, just like you and I, except they're billionaires. And the Epstein files, of course, as it touches almost everything, it seems. I mean, it has its dirty hands all over the White House and in many other places in the world, and with prime ministers from Israel, with former high-ranking officials from Great Britain, to your own uh, chief chief executive Bone Spurs. Everybody seems to be catching some strays from Jeffrey Epstein, and none of the foregoing will nothing that I will say going forward tonight suggests that any of the individuals that I am referring to or implying any relationships between the game dot dot dot. Nobody's been convicted of any criminal offense related to the Epstein files specifically. But it's notable that there are at least 7 NFL teams whose primary principal, number one, top dog, head honcho owner is mentioned in the Epstein files. Again, everybody is entitled to do their own research. You can say that rich people talk to rich people. It doesn't mean that they're all abusing kids, and you're absolutely right. 100% correct. Is it the fact that these people that chose to continue their relationship with Epstein well after they were aware of his first criminal conviction for prostitution and enticing an underage person to participate in a sexual act? That's bad judgment. Bad judgment is not illegal. You know, it is interesting that so many, and this is not exclusive to the NFL, but tonight is the Super Bowl. So there is NHL, MLB, there is NASCAR, there is Olympic organizing committee chairs and others affiliated with the English Premier League soccer. So it really spreads pretty far and wide. But this is a football day. This is the Super Bowl, and so of the teams, the teams where the ownership, the primary or the principal owner, was mentioned in the Epstein files are the New England Patriots, both New York teams, the Jets and the Giants, the Washington Commanders, and I'm going to say formerly Redskins, because they have the dubious distinction of being mentioned before and past and current ownership. Dan Snyder, who is no longer the owner, thank goodness gracious, of what was the former Washington Redskins, because he's a detestable human being, and he was listed prominently in the Epstein files. Also, the Carolina Panthers, the Miami Dolphins, and the Minnesota Vikings. So there are 7 that are, again, not suggesting any particular criminal behavior, because no one has been convicted for any crime associated with Jeffrey Epstein. It's just that, people that had involvement after his criminal conviction related to underage endangerment with sexual behavior of minor children, redundant, dumb thing to say. You know what I'm getting at. Kids, children, kids. That's concerning. And these are powerful men. These men started businesses. They started hedge funds. They started various things, and captains of industry, which excuses absolutely effing nothing. Nothing. Excuses nothing. They give a lot to charity. So what? Doesn't matter. Yeah. So we'll talk sometime in the future about all the other sports, and this Epstein will be with us for some extended period of time, as much as Donald Trump thinks that it is going to go away. It's so intertwined with every aspect of his administration, and he himself as an individual, as a business person, as a candidate, and as a president, that it will be. It's not holding out Donald Trump as someone that's capable of making absolutely horrible decisions, because he does that every day and harms the American people. It's clear if you've been on this feed before. I am not an impartial commentator on Donald Trump because I love my country too much, and he's doing almost everything he can possibly do to destroy it. Uh, I say almost because we're a year and 10 days in or something like that. And he still has a year and 2 weeks into his administration. We still have almost 3 more years to go, and he can do a lot more damage. If the Congress, if John Thune, Mike Johnson, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, and others continue to allow him to do these things. And it's not, they are allowing him because they're not doing anything. Say, oh, well, we were communicating with him behind closed doors because it's better. These things are better handled in private. No, he has absolutely waived his right to that sort of consideration. And that goes for Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or you can argue that he's already off the deep end and gone, but he still may want to do business in the United States for another few years, not be repatriated to South Africa. All of the things that could complicate his ability to be. Elon is a genius. He has done things in business that nobody has ever done. Indisputable. Not litigating, relitigating, or trying to portray his business specific business exploits in any other way. It's miraculous what he's accomplished. And not everybody in business is expected to be a good person. They don't have to be. And that, part of the MAGA thing is DEI, ESG. We don't want to do that anymore because that makes us sad. That means we have to. You mean you're looking to us? It's like Charles Barkley back in the old days. Like, I'm not your role model. Right? Okay. Okay. Uh, Fine. But you don't have, you can be neutral. Don't be an asshole, and don't support behavior that harms your fellow citizens. It's not debatable. If it were in the beginning, it wasn't debatable before a bunch of assholes elected him, right? Before they cast their votes. It wasn't debatable because it was all there. His past behavior, approaching 80, wasn't going to change. Project 2025 spelled out completely what was going to happen if he were elected. and he's keeping a lot of those promises. So if you wanted that, if you want racism and harm to black and brown human beings, or the things that have actually been happening, if that's what you voted for, congratulations. I'm sure that if there are powers well to the north of where we are right now, they will be making a list, checking it twice, and keeping a place for you. And it won't be that way. It's just that's where the waiting room is. That's the uh, purgatory is a little bit north from where we are right now, and that's the waiting room. And then, of course, there's Judgment Day, there's fire and brimstone, there's all sorts of fun stuff, uh, or nothing at all. But you don't get to say we didn't know. You don't get to say we thought he was going to come around. You don't get to say that anymore. Not saying that you thought, waiting for him to come around. Those people are captive in some way, like a cult or like a hostage, whatever it is, however you prefer. Those are the people that don't want, willful blindness. No excuse for that in an adult human. But there are people that are racists. There are people that feel superior when they treat other people with different skin colors, race, religion, creed, national origin, all of those things. There are people, and many of them in the MAGA cesspool, that feel a sense of empowerment for the first time in their lives. That we're decision makers now because Donald said he was going to make us rich, and we didn't have to be polite anymore. You've seen the videos. We don't have to pretend to like black and brown people. We can be our mad ass crazy selves. And it's fine because Donald Trump, stop right there. You're listening. You are being led by I won't go into convictions and all that. You're being led by a reality TV host, not a man of the cloth, not a woman of the cloth, not a great leader, not a military hero, not a consequential member of the business community. None of those things are true. He sold some Bibles, he sold some steaks, and he bankrupted a number of casinos. So that's business. It's business as usual. And he came out of his father's business, and he learned real estate at the knee of Fred, who excluded people of color from the apartments and other structures that he built. So, you know, uh, apple not falling far from the proverbial tree. So, great. But if you're following somebody like that, the problem isn't with when you stand up and you say things like woke or Trump derangement, TDS, whatever. You're putting a big stamp on your forehead for all that are willing to see it, and it just says, you know, I don't care if you treat me like an asshole because I'm getting the tax treatment I want, and I'm allowed to behave in any way I want. All those years that I had to pretend to be nice to certain members of my community, that I felt shamed. And then people got sad and they got mad at me because I was rude to a person of color, a woman, the all you need to know about the Republican Party right now, which is they're captive. The Republican Party, the one that I grew up with, and the one that was in existence, through Ronald Reagan, through George Bush the elder. Some would argue through Bush the younger, but that was sort of a different vibe. That party stands for certain things, certain character traits, certain family values. That was Bush the elder was enjoyed talking about family values. He um, he was a man. He was a war hero that practiced what he preached. You know, uh, Donald Trump is as far from that as almost any human being that has ever been born on this earth or any other one. But, that people choose to follow somebody like that with the hopes that he's going to peel off some of the money that he's taking from the UAE. The the spy sheik is going to peel off a couple hundred for you just because you wore a red hat. Probably not going to happen. Now you're getting your health care eviscerated. Your prices are higher, as I put forward in my essay yesterday. It was kind of a hypothetical game plan um, disguised in a scenario planning exercise. Sounds kind of weird. Sounds a little wordy, but what I wanted to talk about there, and I know that the game's on, and I need to shut it up and move it on. I turn it off. Just if you want to look back, if you didn't see yesterday's episode, I just talked about a uh, a hypothetical 4-point plan that Donald Trump could use to lure enough people back in to keep the House in the hands of the Republicans by doing what I called cotton candy and cocaine, which is the new Mr. Warsh, the new presumptive chair of the Fed, if he makes it through the Senate. They're not terrors these days. They're laying down and naked upside down on the floor for Donald Trump right now. Hopefully, John Thune will try to will rediscover his roots as a proud Dakotan, and a proud Christian with 6 grandchildren, right? Presumably, I don't know this, but maybe some of them are women or girls, his grandkids. I don't know. He looks so young, as I said, so handsome. I'm just jealous, right? Sure, could be. He is a strapping man. He is strapping, whatever that actually means. He'll wake up one day and say, "I just went to church and I told the people in my congregation that I'm doing everything within my power to follow the teachings of JC." And then he goes to work and he votes to allow the behavior that is causing the death and injury of thousands of Americans. The most visible, Alex and Renee, we know about that. Those are the ones we know of because they're the most extreme. All of the people that were deported to countries that they have no connection with, all of the people that are unable to stand up for themselves and they're in detention facilities and they're being starved and they're living in amongst bed bugs, scabies, and not getting the medicine that they need, and all of that, all of the death, the shootings, the beatings, which you can watch any day you want, for better or for worse, the malnutrition, withholding medicines, the overall cruelty. That is all a choice. It's a choice that the Trump administration made to behave that way, to conduct themselves. And some people say, well, that's the way that that's going to be a deterrent, or it is a deterrence against other people following illegal aliens to our country. The border, according to news accounts and the Trump administration, for whatever that's worth, which is shit, but by reliable news accounts, the southern border is pretty tight. Good. We'll keep it that way, and that was an oversight by the Biden administration. Nothing. I heard was it? I listened to an interview with one human being I respect way up on the list, which is David Remnick, who is the editor of the New Yorker. He interviewed, what is the nice young man's name? Ben. Oh, I just lost that. Oh, hey, he is a right wing commentator who is extraordinarily popular. There was an interview. I posted it in the feed, and the only point was it didn't have anything to do with this nice young charismatic man, but all these young, some of them extraordinarily successful podcasters with huge audiences on the right. Right? Why did they repeat anytime they're asked to account for behavior or an opinion? The whataboutism, or if you prefer, the yeah, but. It is the most intellectually dishonest kind of way to duck a question, particularly when you agree, excuse me, when you agree to give an interview and it benefits you, it helps you burnish your brand, particularly the New Yorker, the Atlantic. I mean, if you were invited, Tim Miller will work. Pod Save America, these large important platforms, infinitely more important than freaking Fox News, CBS, and CNN. Because that's the way that people connect now. If you're given the opportunity to speak, and it's not a surprise, they're not waylaying you on the side of the road and saying, mic in your face and saying, answer these 5 questions. Now that sounds like ICE, but that's not what we're talking about here. You agree to the interview, and then you repeat. Yeah, but Biden did it. Don't you remember? Biden did the same thing, but 10 times worse, and that's been proven. It's beyond dispute that Biden, oh, not only Biden, but that other guy he used to work with. Remember the good-looking black guy with the beautiful wife? Remember? Yeah, we've been talking about them recently because of another one of Donald J. Trump's tweets, the beautiful Obamas. No, you Obama. Somebody brought up correctly in the feed earlier today that why did I say I commented on the Obamas, that one of the 15 pictures I've looked at in the last 2 days because of these ape attack things, the Trump meme, which was lion sleeps tonight, whatever the heck it was. And no, there were no apes in the Lion King. When I look at their picture, it just makes me think of a bunch, not perfect times. President Obama would admit, and does regularly in interviews, that he's made mistakes. Red lines in related to Syria, Iran, other things. Of course, all human, consequential job, high pressure, mistakes are made. you learn, you move on. So I don't know why I got it really um, excuse me, rewind. Gentleman, uh, the nice young gentleman, Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I had Cohen in my brain and I knew it was wrong. So my bad. Ben Shapiro was the young man I was referring to, interviewed on one of the New Yorker podcasts that's done in cooperation with WNYC. So it was a great interview because David Remnick does really good interviews. Mr. Ben Ben did Ben Shapiro has communicates well, has some interesting ideas. He talked a little bit about the speech that he gave at TPUSA in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing and Erica and the rise of anti-Semitism. He is Mr. Shapiro is Jewish, and the rise of anti-Semitism in the far right is alarming, particularly because it isn't a fringe element, you know, that well, Tucker Carlson earlier, MT Marjorie Taylor Greene is seems like she's gearing up for perhaps a run for the presidency, maybe because she has dialed down the yeah, the laser beams and some of the more more esoteric comments that she had made before. And I'm not going to minimize the anti-Semitic anti-Semitic nature of many of the things she said in that realm before. If she's learning, we're going to support and applaud that if it proves to be true, right? Because that's what we do as humans. When you learn a lesson and you prove that you are not doing it for convenience to change a narrative, that you actually are absorbing knowledge and changing as a human, that we have to celebrate that because we're all flawed. We all make mistakes every day of the week. And Ben Shapiro was highlighting that. Tucker Carlson, who has gone well off of any. Oh boy, uh, Tucker is an immensely talented communicator. He is an impossibly good writer. I mean, going way, Weekly Standard, going way back. Tucker is a immensely talented writer. His ability to communicate written word is just William F. Buckley, out of that school of conservative thinkers. He was part of that group, Crossfire, the whole thing. Um, but just and he's smart. I'm not in comparison, not that somebody else is dumb. He's very clever. So when he always he asks the questions, it's like, well, that, I mean, if you've seen it 3 times, then doesn't that mean that the just because the Jews have bought 3 legacy televisions, I'm just making this up, television stations in the last 3 years, that doesn't mean that the Jews are taking over the media, does it? And he obviously he's a lot more clever than I am, but he does it in a way that, turning it into a question and trying to make it more palatable and not overtly racist, not overtly anti-Semitic. He's really good at that. Candace Owens, a little less deft. Nick Fuentes, How are you? Nice to see you, Nick. Just completely, completely lost in space in that, and that has to be. It should be worrying, but if your most likely next leading light is one J.D. Vance, who, as I referenced just an hour ago, was we're approaching. I hope you got your present. Approaching Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day in 2025, then your Vice President, J.D. Vance, was in Munich giving a speech and scolding Europeans for being mean to Nazis again. Because Nazis are people too. They're very sensitive. They bruise easily. They're feeling caring people. And so you have to be very careful and not offend Nazis because they go home and then they're sad and they cry and they feel like they're not a part of the community anymore. So I guess his motivation, clearly what his motivation is he is trying to normalize extremist behavior in order to give cover to the extremist behavior that he's participating in and condoning and exacerbating right here at home. The whole thing about, you know, my crew, my GOP, all those kids said all those nasty things, but they're children. Of course, they're in their 30s and they work in the Republican firmament. So they're not excused. But he tries, and he's JD, very effective communicator and likes to do that whole thing. Like, oh, so what we're doing now is we're going to vilify this person who has been a God fearing Christian his entire life, and we're going to vilify them for one mistake. I'm not about, the righteous bullshit, righteous indignation thing that JD does like a pro now. He's a young man. He's not an experienced politician. He's getting there. He's he's smart. His wife's smarter. His wife's better looking. His wife's a better human being. But he's getting really good. He's getting, he will eventually get scary good at this in a sort of a Goebbels-esque kind of way. That those, if you don't have the God-given talent and you can learn it, then it may end up being just as effective. And so that's your boy JD. So, what I haven't been doing, because that would be rude, is checking on my patriots, because at my advanced age, I've got it from a reliable source that until the game's over, there aren't any winners or losers. So, and there's so many commercials. Some of the commercials are fun, right? I'll watch a reel of the commercials at some of their time, because some of them there'll be some political stuff in there, and Susan Collins, who was a great picture of her holding a MAGA hat in her right hand, waiting to cast a vote in the Senate. Oh, she's got to go. Is Graham Plattner the answer? Is the former governor? I don't know what the answer is, but all I know is if I hear that, I'm going to study it. I'm going to give them a stern warning. All of the Susan Collins isms that we've come to know and hate over not hate her as a human, but just those rapid fire rationalizations that things just come streaming out of her delightful mouth. She's done some wonderful things for citizens of Maine over the years. She's been there for a while, but now we need fighters. We need fighters. We need to kick her to the side of the road. Get a few. The Senate's within reach. It ain't easy. It's not a slam dunk. It isn't a foregone conclusion. any of those fait accompli, which, yeah, that's a fun triggering word. It isn't any of those things. It's going to be a struggle right up to the last week. And as I suggested yesterday, the dirty tricks are going to be are going to be flying. They're going to discount. They're going to chop the interest rate. They're going to forward guidance. They're going to not only cut rates, which they have to do as a collective, open market committee, but they're going to somehow, the new guy is going to signal. If it were up to me, my forward guidance would say 5 rate cuts next year. Gives the market a bounce. Oh, and Donald Trump just called me. He said he's going to cancel all the tariffs. Not next week, but soon. Okay. Cotton candy. Oh, and by the way, the immigration thing, that was a little bit violent. We're sorry about that. We're not going to do that anymore. So now you're taking out an 8 ball, right? And you're getting really, really high. And you were almost back on side as a Democratic voter or as an independent trending with towards the Democrats because of the outrageous, violent behavior towards your fellow citizens. And they're going to try to tempt you back. They're going to say, no, we made mistakes. We acknowledge it. We're sorry. We love you. We're your guys. We love this country. Let's have a good World Cup and everything will be fine. We'll go into the elections and Donald Trump will have 2 more years and it'll be a kindler, gentler Donald J. Trump. We promise. Because that always works out for them, right? And then, as I suggested yesterday, the coup de grace, the final happy ending would be the stimmy checks, just to make everybody feel good about everything, particularly DJT, even though he's not on the ballot. He's the guy whose name is going to be on the check. And I wish it was his Kenkel instead. But, yeah, so there's a game on. I'm going to go enjoy that. I hope you do too. I wanted to just, touch on this because Epstein's always buzzing around, not consequential in every aspect of our lives every day, but it's a reminder that the people that we elected to represent our interests in the executive branch and the legislative branch are not doing that. And they're using, for various purposes, the Epstein files, which means they are exploiting and re-traumatizing women who were raped before they were women, when they were girls, when they were children, however you want to describe that. Keep that in your mind, that all of the games that Thune, Johnson, Trump, the rest, John Roberts, not up for election, Clarence Thomas participated. Epstein list. There. How gross is that? Every time they open their mouth and they make an apology, find out if it's your representative apologizing for Donald Trump. You say, well, sir or madam, please tell me what date and time you apologized to the victims. Please tell me when you sent a letter of condolence to Alex Pretty's parents in Colorado, right? To Renee Goods, not her father, I think. He's a little redhead, but he's a father who's lost a child. So I'll try to not be snarky and rude. When Mr. Representative, who I voted for, and now you're representing me, it's not going to be the Democrats. But anytime you're going to put a Republican on the spot, when did you talk to the president and tell them to stop injuring human beings on a daily basis on your order, cruelty? When did you tell them to stop? The answer will be he didn't. They don't deserve a vote. You got to stay home, stay home. But you should be voting for the opposition because this has to end. And we have to do definitely some soul searching, definitely some it's hard work, but constitutional amendments, or so much of this can be done if the Congress was working on our behalf instead of going to expensive lunches and on long vacations and using their campaign funds for personal effery. Then they're not doing our bidding. They're paid to do our bidding. They're not free agents. So in any case, so pleasure, fun, and go Patriots. I hope I'm not disappointed when I switch the screen. And we will we will catch up with you sometime tomorrow. Thank you for your time. Kindly restack and subscribe and tell a couple people. And if you're on Facebook, drop a link to my video pod if you care to. If you enjoy any part of this, even the dumb stuff, then that would be greatly appreciated, and I would be happy to return the favor. So if there's something, a post, a project, a piece of writing that you're particularly proud of, a particular video that you're proud of, a post on IG that you made 2 days ago that you think legitimately is the funniest fucking thing you've ever seen in your life, and you did it yourself, tell me about it. Now, I'm one guy. I don't have an army of Iranian bots or anything to elevate your post in any particular way, but I'll do my part. You tell me you're on TikTok. I'm so close to ditching TikTok because it's getting, I mean, when you hear like real people, like real quote unquote influencers, even, people that we know of from Substack, like Aaron Parnas. Aaron, sweet kid. Yeah. Well, I can say that because I'm half of his age, right? I'm older than his father, perhaps. Works his ass off every day. Updates. He's an honest broker. He speaks beautifully. He all those things. The only deficiency is he's a lawyer. Went to one of those schools, right? So, but I legitimately, if there's anything I can do in my humble way to elevate your work, I'd be happy to do it. For sure. The DMs in this app are fine. Don't know if for some reason you connected with me on LinkedIn, which is fine. I'm really bad about the DMs there, but if you send me a message or get my attention, then we'll exchange phone numbers, and I'm happy to talk to anybody to be helpful in any way that I can. That doesn't require the detonation of a thermonuclear device, within reason. So, in any case, thank you again. Have a beautiful night, and we'll catch up tomorrow. Thanks.